Thank you very much. Hi everyone. Good day. My name is Karthy. As you can see, making a presentation on the prevalence of high blood pressure amongst bankers working in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory, Nigeria. Um, as we know, hypertension is one of the most important causes of the total disease burden in the world, and amongst the non-communicable disease. Coronary artery disease, including hypertension, is a major risk factor that accounts for almost 53 to and 44% of death and disability adjusted life years. Blood pressure is the single most useful test for identifying coronary artery diseases. And we know that hypertension is a silent killer in today's world, especially in developing countries where we have a dual burden of both communicable and non-communicable diseases. As we know, people nowadays, and seeing in working places within the age group, especially the working age, have been assessed or are prone to coronary artery diseases, which results to death and in most developing world, because we have a dual burden of both communicable and non-communicable diseases. As we know, hypertension is increasing in its importance both medically and in public health issues worldwide. Currently, the prevalence of hypertension in many developing countries, especially in urban cities, is said to be as high as those observed in developed countries. The burden of hypertension in Nigeria is high and is still growing, and we still cannot say the exact burden, because of the lack of usable data. And part of the reason is because from the United Nations data, it was stated that the burden of hypertension is meant to increase triple the amount in development world, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, by 2030. These were some of the issues that informed my interest in the study, and some of the specific objectives of the study involves to examine the prevalence, awareness, treatment, and control of hypertension in bankers in FCT, Abuja, Nigeria. To identify professionally specific risk factors for hypertension and cardiovascular diseases that can be targeted in future public health interventions. To determine possible risk factors for hypertension amongst bankers. To correlate between systolic and diastolic blood pressure factors like age, sex, body mass index, and so on. And of the research questions, we have: how do the profession like banking influence the prevalence of hypertension in Nigeria? Does the body mass index of bankers correlate with the blood pressure values? What are the identified risk factors associated with blood pressure amongst bankers in Abuja, FCT, Nigeria? Are there age and gender differences in the blood pressure amongst the studied bankers? Bankers were specifically chosen because of the nature of their work. They have a lot of pressure, they have a lot of deadlines to meet. Most times they come to work early, they close late, and as we proceed in the study, you realize that a lot of them, their eating lifestyle is questionable. The study was carried out amongst commercial bank workers in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, and as we know, the population of the study is made up of professional bank staff. It was precisely a cross-sectional study, as about 7 to 9 banks were assessed, and we had a confidence interval of about 96%, which resulted to about 400 individuals that were studied to minimize errors in the assessment and the statistical analysis of the study. On the statistical analysis, we had for continuous variables, mean values and standard deviations were calculated and the mean compared using the independent self-host tables. Locality and gender differences in prevalence rates were compared with the person chi-square table. What I assessed here basically was that there are banks that are located at the heart of the city. There were those that were located at the outskirts of the city. So there was comparison in the values of those who worked at the bank within the heart of the city and those at the annex of the cities. Amongst the Okay, we had a p-value below 0.05 and it was considered statistically significant, while those that were statistically significant were above the p-value of 0.05. Amongst the inclusion and exclusion criteria, only professional bank work staff members were included in the study, like the security, the cleaners were not included in the study. Then the ethical consideration I considered in putting this research work into place, I had a written consent written to the bank management for approval and also got verbal consent from the samples that were studied. Limitation of the study. From the findings of the study is not applicable to the general population of the bank, as I earlier said, but a representative of various aspects of the population in age. It was just the professional bank staff that were assessed, but a representative of them had cuts across both age, sex distribution, occupation, educational level, social status, and location of the residents, as I earlier stated in the study. After the assessment of the results got in, some of the characteristics of the study population were indicated, as we can see here. About 400 participants were involved in the study. The mean age of the males were about 33 years old plus or minus 4, and females were about 29 plus or minus 5. The mean weight, body mass index, the systolic blood pressure, and the diastolic blood pressure were significantly slightly higher in males than females. As you can see others on the presentation. Amongst the risk factors associated in relation to hypertension, the analysis of the risk factors for being hypertensive using binary logistic regression model showed that irregular blood pressure check, high cholesterol level, smoking, staying around smokers, not having health goals, regular alcohol consumption were identified as possible risk factors. Okay, like when I was collecting interviewing them for the questionnaire answering, I realized that a lot of them do not go for regular blood pressure check, and it was like the first time that they were checking their blood pressure, and some of them were really high. It was more amongst the male workers because they were like, oh, they never knew that they had to check and all that. They never knew it was this important. And some of them were smokers, some of them had very horrible eating habits, some of them had high cholesterol level, and from the analysis of the questionnaire, some of these were related to were common amongst those who drink, who had high consumption of alcohol, and who smoke or had friends that smoke that they stayed around. From the study that was done, the conclusion and recommendation of my study is that the bank workers in Abuja FCT have high prevalence of hypertension with about 37%, with male subjects having high hypertension prevalence against their female counterparts. Regular alcohol intake, obesity, smoke were amongst the commonest risk factors that were observed amongst them. For the recommendations, continuous health education on chronic non-communicable diseases such as hypertension is advocated, while regular annual medical checkup should continue to be encouraged for those who are not yet diagnosed to be hypertensive. While the hypertensive bankers must adhere to the prescribed medication as well as engage in lifestyle adjustments where necessary to avoid the risk of developing hypertension-related complications. And these recommendations were shared with the sample size that I studied after the result and everything.